How do you keep a cattle operation going strong for 4 generations? By doing everything you possibly can to manage and care for the land. Matt Fleck shows us how one Nebraska family is taking advantage of help from the NRCS to implement conservation practices and stay economically viable for the long term.
The Maddox Cattle Company is a family-run cow, calf, and yearling operation with deep roots in the sand hills of southwest Nebraska.
The history of our ranch goes back to my great-grandparents, Taylor and Clara Maddox. They came out and homesteaded in 1886. Well, this is the 131st year of our family being in the cattle business, and conservation of our ranch, of our natural resources, is the number one thing. I'm the 4th generation, my boys are the 5th generation on the ranch, so I think that lends itself to taking a long-term view of conservation. Certainly we've taken a view about being profitable, but the key point there is that conservation and profitability really go hand in hand.
Over the years, the Maddox family has continually innovated to improve their care of the land. They've worked closely with the USDA Natural Resources Conservation Service and created a detailed grazing plan for their ranch.
For me personally, a grazing plan is essential to proper management. I would be scared to try to graze cows without having a plan written down on paper. Your memory is short term, but if you have your records written down on paper, you can always go back and look at your records and see where you were at and what you were really doing. I wholeheartedly believe in a grazing plan because it keeps us on top of our game. It keeps us accountable for what we have out here.
We often like to think of our conservation plans as outlines for an economic blueprint for a farm. So generally when you're going to do good conservation, particularly in the long haul, you're going to do good economic viability for an operation. So as we talk about making sure we don't overgraze plants on a range, making sure that soil biology helps cycle nutrients and improve that forage productivity, long term we're building in more resilience against drought or even floods, and we're also building in more flexibility as far as decision making on the part of Mr. Maddox and his counterparts and how they want to invest in that increased productivity and improve the economic viability of their operations.
Now we have more water development, more cross fencing, and we have more intensive range use. I think our grass has improved dramatically because of that, and I think we can lay that to the great amount of information and insight that we've gotten from our local NRCS range conservationists and on a national level too, about how they have provided that great technical support and sometimes cost share support, that it's allowed us to develop this ranch and help maintain the possibility that we can carry it on into the next generation.
By working with NRCS in developing and implementing a conservation plan, the Maddox Cattle Company has been able to grow their cow numbers and sustainably increase their grass production.
On our grazing plan, each guy has their own set amount of pastures that he has for each herd that allows him about 10 to 11 acres per cow-calf unit. And with doing that, we're able to scrunch our cows down into tight groups into smaller pastures than what you'd see in traditional places. And with that, we were able to come in, hit a pasture rather quickly, graze it quickly, get it down to the level that we'd like to see, use as many of the forages that are there without being detrimental to them, not overgrazing them. And that allows us to have, because we're going to be able to have a longer rest period behind what we're doing, we typically try to build in a 90 to 100 days rest on our pastures. With doing that, we can have all of our plants can have ample rest, but with ample rest, they're able to recover at least to the level where they were before we went in, if not progress a little bit past that stage. In doing so, we can add more numbers to our cows.
We make the cows graze year-round. They graze corn stalks in the wintertime, and then we graze native range in the summertime, along with some other things like cover crops and some irrigated grass, but mainly is a year-round grazing program. And I think it's been 7 or 8 years since we have last fed a cow. And so we think that's one of our unique advantages here in our operation, is that we have that good winter resource of corn stalks. And we try to maximize our use of those corn stalks, and our whole genetic program, our whole system of calving is all geared to minimize our inputs on those cows.
At the Maddox Cattle Company, both the land and the cattle are healthy and thriving. And with these kinds of results, the value of focused conservation planning with help from NRCS is clear.
The benefits of conservation, not only to our clients, to Mr. Maddox and his counterparts, can't be overstated. As we talked about, the fact is it's a partnership, and it has to be something that's really advantageous for our clients in what they want to achieve on their respective operations. At the same time, investing in conservation not only makes his short-term viability better, but it makes the long-term viability better, because we actually are protecting and allowing the land to heal and restore itself.
I think that NRCS has a wealth of knowledge about various different practices, whether it be in farming or in ranching, and on soil conservation, water quality, all of those topics. I think that the cattleman brings something to the NRCS in that there is a level of practicality and a great deal of observation that happens by the individual cattle producers, that they provide that feedback to NRCS, which helps them refine and redevelop their programs so that their advice, their recommendations are really tailored to that operation out in the country.
Reporting from Southwest Nebraska, I'm Matt Fleck for NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman.